Hey, good evening, everybody. Hope you can hear me okay. Let me know if there's a problem with the sound or anything. I'm not on camera tonight because it's that time of year. I've got an allergy. I've got streaming eyes, a streaming nose. So if I sniff all the way through this stream, you know what it is. I've not got a cold. I've not got COVID. I've got allergies. I'm allergic to certain types of grass. So in the spring, I get allergies, especially in the evening. I don't know what it is about the evening, but yeah, so I'm not on camera. But what I wanted to talk to you about and discuss with you is the Anthony Todt family murders. Todt, sorry. I always call him Anthony Todt. It's Todt. I must remember. But he's known as Tony, so I might just call him Tony for the ease of these things. So yeah, I'm fascinated by family killers. I know it's kind of one of those morbid fascinations, and I'm interested in the psychology of them. But I'm also interested in why some family murderers get lots and lots and lots of attention, and others don't. I find it bizarre, to be honest. You know, the Watts case is known all over the world. You know, Netflix did Chris Watts. But yet other family killers who are just as horrendous, if not more so. I mean, this one is truly horrendous. What Todt did is beyond words. But yeah, I find it bizarre. Anyway, I'll give it a couple of minutes to let people get in before I start. So I'll say a few hellos. Hi, Brenda, Norma, Cecile, Mississippi Girl. Watching the replay because you're getting your kids from school. That's cool. Hi, Jean, Princess Blessmore. That's a great name. Mandy, Girl Friday, Patty Girl, Hallie, Susan, Monique, Crazy Chicken Mama. Take it easy. Oops, the chat's jumped. Let's go back. Deb. Let's have a look. Stephen, Sonia, Patricia, Shauna, Paprika, Sandra, Earthbound Nomad. Hello, everybody. I was going to do this at the weekend, actually, over on my other channel, Michelle Walks, kind of in lieu of Crime Story Sunday. You know, I was doing it weekly. We got up to 19 episodes on Crime Story Sunday, and it was an awful lot of work to do a different case every single week and do the research in as thorough way as I wanted to. So I gave it a break. But I put this presentation together, and I was going to do this in lieu of Crime Story Sunday at the weekend. But I had a free evening tonight. My son's not in. So, you know, the internet should be running okay. So when my son's in and he's gaming, the internet is terrible. So it's difficult to live stream when my son's in. So I had a free night. So I thought, why not? Why not just come online and talk about Anthony Todt? So here I am. You're not late, Kate. You're just in time. Where do you become members, Cecile? If you go to the channel homepage, and there's a button that says join. So you can click on that. If you're on an iPhone, you'll have to open YouTube from Safari, not from the YouTube app. But there's also a link to joining the members in any of my videos, like the description box. If you scroll down the description box of any of my videos, you'll see a link there as well. So that's how you become a member. Just join. And it's just one flat fee. I've not got like various tiers and things like that. I've just got one flat fee. So, shall we get going? I don't anticipate this being a very busy chat. because on this channel, any topic that isn't Summer Wells or Chris Watts videos do okay. I've not done a Watts video for months and months and months. I mean, I did everything there was to do about Watts. But I think my top most popular videos are Chris Watts videos. But anything else other than Summer Wells or Chris Watts, hardly anyone watches. It's bizarre. It's truly bizarre that I've got this really niche audience, I think. And I'm trying to get away from that a little bit. I'm trying to broaden people's horizons on this channel to talk about other cases. Like my video that I put out this afternoon, my time, was on Lily Peters, but I wanted to make a comparison between the killer of Lily Peters, you know, the little 10-year-old girl who's been murdered recently, and the case that was local to me back in the 1990s, the Jamie Bulger case. And when I heard about Lily Peters and the fact that her cousin murdered her, and he's only 14, it made me think about Jamie Bulger, the little 2-year-old boy who was killed in a town near Liverpool in the UK. It's about 20 miles away from where I live, so I remember it very, very, very well. It was all over my local news as well as national news, and I think it went international. And that was horrendous. And although the murders of Jamie were both 10, two boys who were both 10, very different circumstances. Like Lily Peters was essayed and murdered by her cousin, whereas Jamie was tortured, murdered by two strangers who abducted him from a shopping centre. Just the age of the kids and the motivations of it and what's happened. We know what's happened since with the Bulger case. So for me, it's kind of like a warning, how do we treat child killers, kids who kill kids? How do we treat them? Can they ever be rehabilitated? Will they be sure to reoffend? And certainly one of Jamie Bulger's killers has reoffended, in offences against children. So I was thinking about that. I've been thinking about that for a few days and made a video about it today. And it's not popular. It's just not popular. So I don't expect this chat to get really busy. So, but I will be watching the chat throughout, and I do want this to be a discussion rather than just me going through some slides. But yeah. So that's good. That's good. I do try to cover other cases. I mean, I cover more cases over on Michelle Walks than I cover on this channel. I cover a wide range of cases on Michelle Walks. Sometimes it's just, a missing person. Like this week, I did a missing person from my own county who sadly has been found murdered. But yeah, I just want to broaden the horizons on this channel. So what's up with my cat? It doesn't matter what time I go live. It doesn't matter what day I go live. I'm always going to get harassed by one animal or another. And this time it's the cat, who I think wants to go to bed. She can go to bed. It's not a problem. She wants me to go with her. She wants to lie next to me, which is very nice, but she's going to have to wait a couple of hours. Anyway, shall we get going with Anthony Todt? Let's get going with Anthony Todt. Yay! Smash that like button. Smash that like button, definitely. Okay, Anthony Todt. So this case is from 2020, but it only got to trial about 3 weeks ago. The trial happened in April, And spoiler alert, he was convicted on all counts on the 14th of April. There was delays. It was meant to, I think it was meant to go to trial September last year, and then that was delayed. And for one thing and another, various things happened. But he has been convicted. But another spoiler alert, he is appealing, allegedly. So there we go. So for those of you who don't know anything at all about Anthony Todt and the Todt family, I'm just going to give you a little bit of background first, and then I'm going to go through the various stages of his confession, because he did confess, and what happened at his trial. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So Anthony Todt was born on September 29th, 1975. So he was 44 years old when he committed the murders. And he was born to his parents, Robert and Loretta Todt. It's very, very interesting. His family history is so interesting. He didn't grow up in a poor family. His dad, Robert, I think, was a teacher, worked in education. But Robert went to prison. What did Robert go to prison for, I hear you say? Well, he tried to kill his wife. Is that ringing any bells? But he didn't do it by his own hand. What he did was he got one of his ex-students, this guy here, to shoot her on a night when he wasn't in, on a night when he was teaching a class. So it could be, there's no, no comeback on him. He's got an alibi because he's at work. But no, it doesn't quite work like that. He did get convicted. Oh, dear God. He did get convicted. Loretta didn't die. She was shot in the eye, but she didn't die. And Robert Todt was convicted of being kind of the guy that set this up. He only did about 5 years, I think. He was convicted. I think he was sentenced to 10 years, if I remember rightly, but he didn't do any more than 5, if I remember rightly. I might be slightly wrong on those numbers, but he wasn't the shooter. It's more like an accessory kind of thing. And his motivation for wanting to get rid of his wife was that he was having a series of affairs. So at the time that he wanted Loretta gone, he was having an affair with someone called Colleen Fetcho, who was a 21-year-old nurse. And they were planning to marry. They were planning to, run away and just get Loretta out of the way. Rather than just divorce her, they wanted her out of the way. At least Robert did. I don't know whether Colleen knew anything about this. But he was well known for dating his students or his ex-students. But Loretta stood by him for a while. And the interesting thing is that it is believed that Anthony, who was only age 4 at the time, witnessed this shooting. So that has got to have some kind of scar on a young 4-year-old. But Loretta stood by Robert. So this is what the, all the press ran with, this headline here: teacher's wife refuses to let bullet shatter love. Even though she'd been shot in the eye, she'd lost her eyesight in one eye. She was very, very lucky to be alive. I mean, good grief, being shot in the eye. They eventually divorced. So Anthony grew up with this knowledge that his dad went to prison, so he was shamed, right? His dad was shamed. He had a good job as a teacher, respected member of the community. And when all this broke, there was shame. Now, remember that, because I think that's important when we think about what happened with Anthony's own family. So anyway, Anthony grew up and he met, excuse me, he met his wife of the future, Megan, they both went to Monfield High School in Connecticut. And he was 2 years older than Megan, but they both went to college and they both got degrees, and they both went into the field of physical therapy. So they ended up marrying and setting up a series of practices. I think they had 2 kind of different locations in Colchester in Connecticut. And their family business was Family Physical Therapy. And Anthony was very well respected. He was good at his job. His patients were very loyal to him. His patients said that he did wonders for their ailments. And this business was doing really well. They had a house in Colchester, Connecticut, and life was good. So they started a family. And their first child, Alexander, known as Alec, was born on September 26th, 2006. And I've not got it in this presentation, but Megan's aunt at the trial, at the sentencing, stood up and spoke about the children and spoke about Megan and just how loved Megan was and just how wonderful these children were. And we got a little glimpse into the personalities of the children that Anthony just utterly brutally murdered. Alec was a clever, studious boy. He loved music. All of the children loved music. Megan loved music, and she wanted her children to grow up musical. And they all loved the piano. Megan played the piano, and all of the children were learning to play piano. Alec and Tyler, the little brother, were very good at the piano. Alec was learning violin as well as the piano, and they would put on shows. They would do kind of things in the community. They used to go to events, like for elderly people. They go and play the piano for elderly people. They were well loved. They were just beautiful children. Alec was quiet, and it kind of somewhat introverted, but he was a really kind of genuine, nice guy. You could just get a glimpse. He was 13 when he was murdered. You were getting a glimpse of the man that he was going to become. And then we've got Tyler, who was born on December 30th, 2008. So he was 11 when he was murdered. And he was a piano player like his brother, but he was learning to play the guitar. And Tyler was, again, a very kind-natured, clever young man, but he was more of a joker, whereas Alec was a bit of somewhat of a loner, very studious. Tyler was more fun-loving, more extroverted, more outgoing, and he would play jokes on members of the family. And just 2 beautiful brothers. And then I think it was about maybe 2014, they introduced a new addition to their family, and this was Breezy, the family dog. Now, I don't know what breed Breezy is because I've only ever seen his face. He's a small, kind of curly-haired dog. He looks like, I want to say he's a Cavapoo, I want to say, because he's got a look of a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel in him, but he's also got a look of a poodle in him. I don't know. I'm only guessing. Thank you, Kate, for becoming a member. It's very kind of you. But there's little Breezy, and the whole family loved Breezy. He was very much a part of the family. And then the final addition to the family arrived on July the 23rd, 2015. And this is little Zoe. And she was only 4 years old when she was murdered. And Zoe completed the family. Now, Megan had a miscarriage that was talked about at the trial. Anthony went to pains to talk about how Megan was affected by this miscarriage, which, you know, it's a horrible thing to happen. But why this was something that he harped on, I don't know whether he's trying to get jury sympathy. I don't know what he was trying to do during his testimony when he was in court. But yeah, Zoe completed their family, and absolutely beautiful little girl, like her brothers. You know, she was growing up to love music, and she was just a joy. And Anthony called her his princess, and they kind of kind-heartedly in the family called her Princess Zoe. Incredibly sad, incredibly sad. So the family was complete, and they had a good life. The business was doing really well. And in 2017, they decided to split kind of the family home, if you will. The business was going to stay in Colchester, Connecticut. But Megan had a number of health problems. One of them was Lyme disease. You know, the disease you get after you're bitten by an infected tick. And I think she had a range of health issues, but Lyme disease was one of the ones that Tony talked about in the court. And warm weather helped her. She had lots of pain, you know, chronic pain, depression, and the sunny climate in Florida suited her better than the colder climate in Connecticut. So in 2017, they sold their house in Colchester, Connecticut, and they bought a condo in Celebration, Florida. Now, the condo was a little bit small for them. Now, they kept the condo, but they rented a bigger house. And this is the house that they rented. 5 bedrooms, lovely neighborhood, and Celebration in Florida. I've not got a picture of the town itself on these slides, but it was developed by Disney, the Disney Corporation. So it was like they were trying to capture like this old world feel in a new town. You know, people I've watched videos on YouTube of people who know Celebration, and they say it's nice, but it's somewhat false. You know, this kind of old world, you know, biscuit, cookies and cream and just this living this wholesome life is what the town planners were trying to achieve. And it was a very safe place to grow up, but it was somewhat false, right? But anyway, it was a safe place to grow up, and the Todt family made it home. So Megan and the children lived in this house, which is 202 Reserve Place, Celebration, Florida. And sadly, this is where they were all murdered. They kept the condo, as I said, and it was only 3 to 4 minutes drive away from this really nice property, but this was rental, right? So I don't know why they kept the condo. I don't know why they didn't sell the condo. But anyway, I think they were planning to rent the condo out. They did rent it out for a little while, I think. But anyway, because they had the family business in Connecticut, yeah, Tracy, they were killed in the rental. Yeah. The rental that they were about to be evicted from, which is interesting, which is very interesting. So Celebration and Colchester, Connecticut are over 1,000 miles apart, 1,200 miles apart, according to Google Maps. And the family business was in Colchester. So Tony ended up splitting his time between Colchester. So he was in Colchester from Tuesday to Friday, operating the business. And Megan and the kids had made their home in Celebration. So the children were going to school in Celebration. And Anthony would fly back to Celebration on Friday and then leave again, presumably Monday evening, to go to work in Colchester on Tuesday. So he kind of did a 4-day week. Now he had staff. So, you know, this business was doing really well. But this is where problems started to creep in. Yes, this is not about summer. This is not, I don't know. Dear me. How does summer fit into this? This is what I was saying at the beginning of the stream, that people just want this channel to be Summer Wells. Oh, dear me. Anyway, I'm it's not about Summer Wells. Come back tomorrow. I'm going to do a video on Summer Wells tomorrow. I know how badly videos do on this channel when they're not Summer Wells, but I'm trying to get away from. I don't want to forget summer. Let me just take a little sidebar here. I never want to forget summer. I'm going to be doing regular summer videos, but I just want to expand this channel a little bit more and do other cases. You know, we can't just concentrate on one case the entire time. And, you know, nothing new's happening in Summer's case. I mean, there are things happening, you know, to do with the ridiculousness of the parents and Candice. And yeah, there's things we can talk about. But I just want to expand a little bit, like I've done with Michelle Walks. I just want to expand this channel a little bit more, bring in new people. And I want to talk about other cases. You know, this case has fascinated me since since day one. And now the trial's happened. It's the perfect time to just tell the whole story. Anyway, back to this. So in 2019, things started to go wrong. The first indicator that things started to go wrong, staff and some of Tony's patients, excuse me, they'd started to notice that he was distracted. He would not quite give the level of attention to his patients that they'd all been used to. And he was shocked. Thank you, Cecile, for the super chat. Expand away. We love everything. That's great. And I hope more people do as well. Thank you so much for the $9.99. Yeah, dollars. So the staff had noticed that he was distracted on the phone a lot, just not paying attention, not giving his full attention to his business. That was the first indicator. Thank you, Candlely, for becoming a member. That's very kind. And they were right. They were right, because Tony was in trouble. I think he was in trouble financially, and that's one of the main, if you look at the research on Familicide, if you look at the research on people who annihilate their families, one of the main reasons they do this is financial. It's not the only reason. There's other reasons, like affairs. The Chris Watts, it was an affair that was the trigger point. Mental health always comes into it. Underpinning everything is the psychology of it. But in Tony's case, I think it's financial on the surface, and then a very deep development of mental illness that was unknown, under the surface. So Tony had overstretched himself, I think, that they were paying a huge amount of money for the rental for 202 Reserve Place. Can't remember the figure, but it was a lot of money they were paying in rent on this property. They were also maintaining the condo, and of course Tony was flying, to and from Connecticut every single week. So, and bringing up 3 children, supporting his wife who didn't work. She'd taken time off the business to have the kids, but she was ill. She was, even if she wanted to, she was unable to work due to her illnesses. So Tony was supporting 4 people, a dog, and 2 properties, one with a huge rent on it. And he wasn't doing well. And he was late paying staff. And at first they were understanding and they were trying to help him. And things started to crumble. Now, unbeknownst to the staff, he was being investigated by the FBI. Thank you, Deborah, for the $4.99 super sticker. He was being investigated by the FBI for fraud. He was defrauding Medicaid and other insurance companies. He was billing companies for treatments that were basically not happening. So he was giving a patient a course of treatment legitimately, but then he wouldn't tell the company that they'd, either got cured or, they weren't getting treatment anymore. And he was continuing to bill the companies. And this, was brought to the attention of the FBI, and it was under investigation. So it was around Thanksgiving that things really came to a head, and he closed the business. And the staff didn't know what was going on. The staff just did not get paid. The patients were just left high and dry. There was appointments booked in, treatment protocols booked in, and Tony had just disappeared. Thank you so much, Karina, for becoming a member. It's very kind. And there was a note on the door saying we'll be closed until after the 1st of the year. So I think the story originally told was that they were going on vacation. I think that was the first story, but then he just disappeared. And the staff, the patients just didn't know what had happened to this business. Now, the family Tony's family, Meghan's family, were in touch with them. So from Thanksgiving up until mid-December, there was contact with the family. But that petered out. Now, normally the family, the whole Todt family would go up to Connecticut for Thanksgiving to be with, you know, their family, or their family were there in Connecticut. Thank you, Helen. Thank you for the £5. Was either partner involved with anyone else? Not that I know of. I can't find any information at all that either of them were having an affair. So that doesn't seem to be the case in this instance, because that was one of my first thoughts, that there's an affair somewhere. Now, there could have been, but it didn't come out at the trial. So nobody knows if there was, but I don't think so. I don't think so in this case. By the way, Helen, thank you for the hat. Helen sent me another hat. I would have worn it tonight, but I'm not on camera because I've got swollen eyes. I'm just not looking good at all. So next time I do a live, Helen, I will be wearing the new hat. Thank you, Patty Girl, for the $15. Bring on other stories. I will. I certainly will. Certainly will. So yeah, so the Todt family used to spend Thanksgiving in Connecticut, and this year they didn't. But they didn't think too much of it. You know, if they, you know, you can assume that maybe, you know, maybe Meghan's not feeling well. We're going to have a vacation in Florida. We're going to, you know, just chill, have a quiet time. Meghan's convalescing, you know, those kind of things. Nobody's going to think anything of it, are they? But anyway, in the lead up to Christmas, the two boys, Alec and Tyler, had an event. Now, this was, they were playing piano for, I think it was like elderly persons, like, I don't know, club or something. And they were playing piano. Now, this was the 14th of December, 2019. And these are photographs taken from that night. Now, people who went to this particular event did think it was a little bit strange, just a little bit strange, that the whole kind of the theme of the event was Christmas, right? Christmas coming up. And you can see behind Tyler here, you can see that there's, you know, a Mickey Mouse, you know, celebration, Disney, a Mickey Mouse dressed as Santa. There's a tree there. I think actually the picture, I've not got it on. I've not got it on this slideshow. But there's a picture of Alec playing the piano with the Christmas tree, like on the piano. And that's the last time that the family were seen alive. But people who attended this event thought it was a bit strange that everyone dressed up. You know, it was fun. You know, it's Christmas. So, you know, you might wear a fancy Christmas jumper, or you might put a Santa hat on or something. But they all turned up just dressed casually, clean, but, you know, just in, like you can see here, the boys are wearing kind of white, we call them polo shirts in the UK. I don't know what they're called elsewhere. So they weren't dressed for Christmas, basically. There was no kind of acknowledgement in them that Christmas was coming up. However, there was no indication that the children were being neglected. They were happy. They were bright. They were their usual selves. So again, nothing to indicate that in just a few days' time, they would be brutally murdered, along with their mother, their sister, and their family dog. He even killed the dog. Even Chris Watts didn't kill the dog, right? You know, it's absolutely horrendous. So it was Tony's sister, Chrissy, who raised the alarm. And she made 2 911 calls. She made one 911 call on the 29th of December, I think, just after Christmas. And it was a fairly brief call. It was played in court. And these calls had been released before the trial. So if you know this case, you'll have heard them anyway, possibly. But the first call she made, she was just, you know, she rang the sheriff's office in Celebration and said, can I have a welfare check? You know, I've not been able to get hold of my brother or his wife over the Christmas period. And, you know, they were having a quiet one this year, but I'm concerned. Tony had told them all that they'd had the flu. So he'd made this excuse that they weren't doing Christmas. They weren't, you know, he made an excuse for Thanksgiving, but he'd said that they'd all had the flu and, you know, they weren't really doing Christmas until they felt better. But by the 29th, Tony's sister couldn't get hold of any of them. So she made this 911 call, and the sheriff's deputies went round to the home. They actually went to both homes. They went to the rental 202 reserve place, and they went to the condo as well. And they left notes on the doors, and they just said, you know, we tried. There seems to be no one home. So that placated Tony's sister for a few days. You know, she thought, oh, maybe they've gone on vacation. Maybe they're feeling better. Maybe they've gone on vacation. Anyway, a few days later, so this was like the first week in January, she, in talking to other family members and in finding out that there was a case against Tony for fraud, she became even more concerned. So I'm going to play you the 911 call. This was played at trial. So I've put in the description box of this video, I've got the full trial. So it was over 4 days, the long days. You know, one of the streams was like 10 hours long, with a big, massive gap in the middle while the jury were deliberating. But we'll get there. So I got these clips from Law and Crime Network, and those are links that I've put in the description box. So I'm going to mute myself out and play this 911 call. It's a little bit difficult to hear. So I've got my volume up as far as I can go. It is a little bit difficult to hear, but just bear with it.
But they have a condo that's right around the corner as well.
Wait, you guys are saying there's no sound? Okay, I'll play it again. Oops. I'll play it again. Let me know if there's sound No.
Okay. Is that what you, Stephanie? Hi. I don't know who I need to speak with. I'm curious if I can have a wellness check done. What's the address for the wellness check? The address for the wellness check is 202 Reserve Place in Celebration. I had actually called on December 29th, and I had an officer go out because I was concerned. My brother and his family, they had all been sick, but there's actually been more developments. There's actually an active, and I just in conversations with my sister, my sister-in-law was making a comment about, and we just kind of put it all together about basically the world ending on the 28th, and nobody has talked to them. Nobody physically talked to my sister-in-law since the 26th of December, and my brother has stopped texting as of Monday. So I don't know if there's a way that somebody can go out. They are renting a place. They're actually being evicted from that property. But that's the last place that we know that they were supposedly at. But they have a condo that's right around the corner as well. What's your phone number? My phone number is 860-235-6230. What's your sister-in-law's name? My sister-in-law's name is Megan, Megan. Mm-hmm. Last name is Todt, T-O-D as in David, T as in Thomas. Mm-hmm. My brother's name is Tony, Tony. Mm-hmm. Same last name. They have 3 kids. And so they think the world is ending and you're worried they're going to, because of a lot of stuff that's been happening, that there could be something a little bit more happening. That I'm wrong. You say Connecticut? I'm so sorry. Yes. We live in Connecticut. He flew back to Florida on the 22nd of November. We didn't find out about all this until the week of Christmas, and we've had a very, very hard time getting anything from him, and he has stopped all communication. And we've not spoken to Megan. Nobody's heard from Megan. You said since Monday, that was the 6th. The last time anybody talked to my brother, text my brother, not even talking, text my brother was on the 6th. Does anybody have any medical conditions? Yes. My sister-in-law, we're not exactly sure. That's the other part of this. Supposedly they were all sick with the flu around that time, but she has some liver issues, and there could be some other health issues that I'm not 100% sure of, but the last time that we had the place, and like I said, I called down on the 29th, the police would go, they checked with the neighbors, and the neighbors said that nobody had been there. I had been messaging some of the neighbors, but it's just really strange. Yeah. And I actually spoke with one of the agents up here, and he even recommended to call back down there and see if we can have another wellness check. Okay, I'm going to call with somebody up there, okay? Okay, thank you. And you said it was 860-235-6230 is your phone number? Yeah. Okay, somebody called you. It's going to come in and say, that'd be a good thing to get you in. And what's your first name? Chrissy, Chrisssy. Last name is Caplet, C-A-P as in Peter, L-E-T as in Tom. And yes, I know it'll come in restricted. That's correct. All right, perfect. All right, someone will call you, okay? Thank you. Bye-bye.
So there's a lot in that call, but before I talk about that, be real, you're absolutely right. Look up the statistics on Familicide. Not just the males versus females. There's so many interesting things that have been done in the research on Familicide. I've got a video actually on my channel, and it's the psychology of Familicide. It's using Chris Watts as the example. It's actually one of my most popular videos on the channel. But it's all about the psychology of Familicide, and I just bring in some research. So yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. It really is. It really is fascinating. I think his hairstyle is the least of his worries, to be honest. But anyway, yeah, Chrissy was an absolute champion because she did a lot of work, like behind the scenes. She was so concerned that, you know, he flew back to Florida on the 22nd of November, just before Thanksgiving. And then, apart from a few phone calls and a few texts, the family just went off grid. And I think that was the word actually he used at one point, that they were going off grid for a while. If I remember rightly, I think he'd said they were going off grid for a while. You're right. She was panicking. She was panicking. She was really worried. But she'd started to put pieces together. She was speaking to other family members. And one of the other family members had had a conversation that revolved around Tony believing that the world was going to end on the 28th of December. Now, when I heard this call initially, when it was first released, I thought that was the date he killed them. But it doesn't appear to be that. It looks like they were killed around the 18th of December. But we can't be sure because the bodies were so decomposed by the time they were found. It's impossible to pin a date on it. And Tony allegedly doesn't know what date. We'll get there. We'll get there. I'm not going to preempt myself. So he had this idea that the apocalypse was coming, that the world was going to end. But also, Chrissy had become aware that the family were being evicted because they hadn't been paying their rent. So they were aware that there was an eviction notice on this rental property. Now, they weren't going to be homeless because they still had the condo that was 3 minutes away. You know, they could have sold the condo to raise some money, I guess. But it was more than that, because Tony knew full well that he was being investigated by the FBI for fraud, for thousands and thousands of dollars. So he was about to be broke. He was about to most probably go to prison. You know, this was a federal offense. He was most probably going to go to prison. His family would lose everything and he would be shamed. Now, I said at the beginning when I talked about his dad, that his dad was shamed when he was convicted of trying to have Loretta killed. The family was shamed and Tony was 4 years old. So he witnessed those events. So not only is it shocking that your mother's been shot, but there would have been lots of talk in the town. The family would have gone down in status from being well respected to having this killer dad, even though Loretta didn't die. You know, he was still convicted as an accessory to attempted murder. So I think shame is a lot of what was driving Tony's mental health. And that's just my opinion. Obviously, I never met Tony Todt, never spoken to him, don't know any of his family, never spoken to any of his family. I'm just someone on the internet, an outsider looking in. And for me, a big part of this is shame. The mental distress, I think the trigger was shame, that he could not admit that his business was doing badly, that he was spending more than he was earning. I mean, to be fair, the business wasn't doing badly. They were just living beyond their means. So instead of like taking some common sense and downsizing and admitting to himself and his family that, look, we can't afford to keep the rental. We're going to move back to the condo and save some money. That probably would have saved them, right? You know, saved them financially. Or, you know, they sold the condo and moved back to Connecticut so that Tony wasn't having to commute all the time. So there was relatively simple ways for him to solve this problem. You know, early on in 2019, when things started to go wrong, he could have solved that problem. But in my opinion, he didn't want to admit to himself or his family that he was, in his mind, that would have been a failure. And he would have felt shame, wrongly, right? He would have felt shame that he wasn't able to keep his family in the way that they'd become accustomed. So I think that's one of the underlying issues. So on the surface, this looks like he was in financial ruin, and that was the issue. But for me, the financial is just the surface level. You've got to dig that bit deeper to, I don't know, to find the truth. And the truth is always in the psychology. It's always in the mental health. Financial is just one. It might be one of the triggers, but it always comes down to psychology for me. Heavenly Clouds, thank you for the $15. Thank you for covering the case. I've been wanting to hear about this case for years. It's fascinating, and I have been meaning to cover this case. I did one video on the Todt family quite a while ago. It was last summer. I think it was just before Summer Wells. The channel was a lot smaller than it is now. And the video, I went through I went through what we know about the case, up to then. But I said then what I said at the beginning of this, that why did the Watts case get so much attention when there are so many other cases that are just as horrific, if not more so, than the Watts case? I mean, this was the Todt case is absolutely brutal. Absolutely brutal. He does indeed, Zoomer. He does indeed. He has a lot of shame now. Well, yeah. Yeah. Didn't think about that, did he? Anyway, so I was looking forward to this trial because I thought we were going to get loads of police body cam, and I really do like police body cam. But no, we didn't. We only got one set of police body cam, and that was very brief. And you can understand why, because the scene inside the home was horrendous. So they obviously can't play that. So what happened? After Chrissy made the 911 call, sheriff's deputies went round and they did the welfare check. No one there. But the FBI turned up, and the FBI started to watch the house. They had somebody watching the property. So for a couple of days before January 13th, the FBI had decided to take up camp on that street. And in the early morning of January 13th, Tony Todt came out and sat on his porch. It was probably quite a crisp morning. It would be freezing cold January in Northern England, but presumably the weather would have been somewhat nicer in Florida, but still. He came out and sat on his porch. So they gathered their forces. So there was a number of police officers. I think there was 6 officers, FBI and some of the sheriff's deputies, and they went in. So this is the body cam of them going in. And again, it's difficult to hear because it's police body cam. For the first 30 seconds, there's no sound, because the way that the police body cams work is when the body cam's turned on, the visuals come on 30 seconds before the audio kicks in. I don't know why, but that's what happens. So I'm going to play this. It's how long is it? It's not that long. It's about 6. Is it 6 minutes? Can't see. Yeah, 6 minutes. All right. So there's nothing graphic, but you get a real sense of the panic in the officers' voices when they realize what is in that property. You get one officer saying, "Where's Zoe? Where's Zoe?" So listen.
Recording.
Tony, you upstairs? Hey, come downstairs, bud. All right? Okay, take your time. Help? Everything's all right, man. Just stay calm. We're gonna check this. Goes to the kitchen. Or whatever it is. Any children here? I can't understand what this is. Keep coming down the stairs. Yeah. Like 7-7.
Where's your wife sleep at?
Where your guys' wife's at? What's up? Are you good? Got any weapons on you? Okay. Any needles? Knives, something like that? What's your wife's name? Megan. Has anyone heard her talk? Megan? Megan. All right, come on down, buddy. All right. Yep. All right, just sit. Have a seat. You good? I got you. So have a seat. Megan, face forward. All right. Put your hands forward too. All right.
Megan?
Gotta walk over.
Megan?
Looks like that. What's that? Sorry. Just stay still on it. Okay. One toward yours here, Ellen. Maybe 51 over there. I believe we got 2 single sevens. Okay. You want me to get a chair for you to sit down in? What's that? Hey, can you go out there and grab some gloves?
We still can't find daughter.
What?
Where's Zoe?
I haven't seen her. She's going to do. Wait, no, I didn't see her. It's sleeping. She won't get. I didn't see anything. Check the garage.
And that's all we see of the police body cam. But towards the end there, you have, I can hear panic in those officers' voices because they realise what they've walked in on. And they just realise the seriousness. You know, this is more than arresting Tony Todt for fraud. However bad that is, it pales in comparison to the scene that those officers were witness to. But allegedly, the house 202 Reserve Place celebration is on Zillow for $900,000. It's a bit out of my price range, but something tells me that they're gonna have problems selling that property. Who'd want to live there? Yeah, when they say get the gloves, yeah. You know, it started off as just a walk round, just to check round. And then we don't see the body cam from the officers who went upstairs. And yeah, the scene. So we'll talk about the scene, shall we? Well, oops. So we'll talk about the scene. Tony was arrested and the house was cordoned off, obviously. This was now processed as a crime scene. And all of the bodies had been put into the master bedroom. So the 2 boys, Alec and Tyler, had been put on mattresses. So he dragged mattresses in and laid them, and he put rosary beads in their hands, and he'd put some of like their favorite possessions with them. Megan was in the bed, and then on the bed, wrapped up in blankets, like swaddled, was 4-year-old Zoe. And you can see here a teddy bear, a photograph, Russian dolls, that looks like, you know, those wooden dolls, and you get put one inside another, like they kind of like stack. That was where Zoe was, and she was at the end of the bed, like basically her mum's feet. And Breezy, the dog, was in his dog bed. So they were all in one room, and Tony had been living in that house for at least 2 weeks, probably longer, probably much longer. due to the state of the decomposition, especially Zoe, which is just horrific to think about, just how a 4-year-old child, she was the most decomposed because her body was smaller, but also she'd been swaddled. So the heat, the heat that the body produces after death, it aided the decomposition process. But Tony can't remember what day this was. They estimate that it was around the 18th of December, thereabouts, but we don't know for sure. So just horrific how he'd lived there. And he'd gone about his life, right? He'd not gone out much, but there was some talk at the trial that he'd gone to the beach at one point. He'd gone and done a few things. He'd gone shopping, as we'll see shortly. But there was some other interesting kind of things that I think are relevant, like what you see here. You see the boys like soccer. So you see here a soccer ball have been brought in. But this is a tie. Like it looks like a rope or something had been tied to the headboard of the bed. Now, was that one of them tied up before they were killed? We don't know because all the bodies have been moved. Perhaps apart from Megan, because it was her bedroom, but all of the children had been killed in their own rooms. Odd. Tyler was sleeping downstairs, allegedly. But the children had been killed separately and then all brought in to the master bedroom, supposedly so that they could all pass over into the afterlife together. Forensics also found the knife that had been used in the killing. This is the green-handled knife that is talked about in the testimony that you're about to hear. And this is a till receipt from Academy. And, he just bought some M&Ms, some Gatorade, like you do. And this strike point, this is a pellet gun. He'd bought a pellet gun, supposedly to off himself with a pellet gun. Now, Tony was clearly in a state. You could hear him. He was struggling to get downstairs. You can see it kind of just about make that out on the body cam. They tell him to sit down. They ask him, does he want a chair? They're kind to him, right? No, the dog, Breezy, was in the master bedroom in his bed. The dog bed. So they were all together in one room, even the dog. I forgot what I was saying now. I've completely forgotten what I was saying. Yeah. I think he was having a panic attack. He was struggling to breathe, I think, because he was panicking. And he said you could hear him right at the end of the body cam. You could hear the female officer say, "Where's Zoe?" And he said, "I don't know, check the garage." And it was just bizarre. So they took him to hospital and he had a number of injuries on him. So these are separate photos. So he had injuries to his hands. So these look like bruising on his knuckles. Now, if the family, these photographs were taken on the 13th of January when he was taken to hospital. And they believe that the family were murdered around the 18th, so 3 weeks earlier. But this doesn't look like fresh bruising, but this looks like bruising that's, to me, now I'm not a medical professional, looks to me like they're fresher than 3 weeks. So what has he been punching? I don't know. Looks like there's some kind of injury here. That's a blown up shot of looks like could be a scar, could be a defensive wound. Somebody fought back, and it is believed that at least one of the children fought back, like really fought back. And then this, they believe, is him shooting himself with the pellet gun. Now, nobody in the right mind would think that you're going to die. Like, I don't know whether that's his chest, shooting yourself in the chest with a pellet gun. Doesn't seem like that's going to result in a fatal injury. But he says, he told them that he couldn't get a real gun. In cross-examination with the prosecutor, who was fierce, she tied him up in knots. I mean, definitely go and watch. I'm only going to play you a short snippet of Tony's testimony, but go and watch it, because she ties him up in absolute knots. And he said he wanted to go and buy a gun to shoot himself, because he obviously, right, in his story, what we're going to get into now, he wanted them all to pass over together and be together in the afterlife. So he tried many ways to off himself, including shooting himself with a pellet gun. No, this is not a picture of a dead person. This is Tony. This is Tony Todt having his injuries photographed on the January 13th. So this was the day that the police went in, arrested him, took him to hospital. Yeah, but I mean, you could do some damage with a pellet gun if you shot yourself in the eye with one, you know, but shooting yourself, I think that's his chest, maybe. So maybe he was trying to off himself. I don't know. And he tried to overdose on Benadryl as well. So anyway, so the sheriff made a statement and is visibly upset. And I'm going to play you just a proportion of the sheriff's statement. And it's heartbreaking listening to this. So
I just want you to keep in mind that this is still very much an active investigation, and I'm going to attempt to answer your questions at the end of this. But there's still some things that I won't be able to divulge at this time. On January 13th, 2020, Osceola County Sheriff's deputies responded to 2002 Reserve Place and Celebration to assist federal agents from the Department of Health and Human Services in serving a federal arrest warrant for Anthony Todt. Anthony Todt's date of birth is September 29th, 1975. Deputies made contact with Anthony in the home along with federal agents and he was immediately detained. A safety check of the home was conducted where deputies discovered 4 deceased individuals inside. The home was immediately secured and a search warrant was obtained by our detectives. Detectives and forensic investigators began their investigation and crime scene processing. The medical examiner's office also responded to the scene and an autopsy was done the following day. The reports of the autopsy determined that the cause of death of the 4 decedents inside the home to be homicide. Anthony has cooperated with the investigation and he has confessed to killing his wife, Megan Todt, 42 years of age, whose date of birth is January 28th, 1977, and their 3 children. Alec Todt, 13 years of age, born September 26, 2006. Tyler Todt, 11 years of age, born December 30th, 2008. And Zoe Todt, who was 4 years of age, born July 23rd, 2015. Anthony also killed their family dog, Breezy. Anthony has been arrested on a warrant obtained by our detectives today for multiple counts of homicide and 1 count of felony animal cruelty. We're still waiting on positive identification of the 4 deceased persons recovered in the home by the medical examiner's office. But based on our investigation and the suspect statements, we strongly believe that they are that of Megan, Alec, Tyler, and Zoe. Based on the initial investigation to include the suspect statements, the deaths have been determined to have occurred sometime towards the end of December. Throughout the course of this investigation, our agency has been in close communication with the family of the victims, and we've also worked very closely, as you can imagine, with the medical examiner's office as well as our state attorney's office. This investigation is ongoing, and we will continue to work to gather all evidence as it presents itself. I can tell you on December 29th, 2019, our office received a request by a family member of Anthony Todt, who resides outside the state of Florida, to check the well-being of the Todt family because she had been told that they all had the flu and she had not heard from them in 2 days. Deputies did respond to the home, check the home and the area, but they were not successful in their attempts to contact anyone inside the home and did not observe anything suspicious. On January 9th, 2020, the sheriff's office was contacted by federal agents concerning an investigation that they were conducting involving Anthony Todt. Deputies from that point made several attempts to make contact with Anthony and the family over this past weekend with negative results. While deputies were at the home and after thoroughly checking the property, there was no answer, and again, nothing suspicious noted at the home. As Sheriff of Osceola County, it brings me great sadness to report, such a tragedy. And we grieve along with the victim's family and friends, along with the community, for this tragic loss of innocent lives. Myself, I cannot understand what would cause a person to commit such evil and horrendous acts. But I can say that if there's any one person or any family out there that's going through a crisis or a difficult situation, there's help out there for you. Organizations and an entire community such as ours that would do anything necessary to help to prevent any sort of tragedy such as this one.
So the sheriff there, he was actually criticised for having emotion while he was speaking, which I think is crazy. The guy's a human being. He might be a sheriff, but allow him to have an emotional response when he's talking about the death of a mother, 3 children, and the family dog. Allow him to have some emotion. But I thought it was very good that he talked about the help, and he just after this, I cut it off, but just after this, he gave a number of helplines and organisations for the area. That I think they recognised rightly straight away that this was a mental health problem. But that doesn't get away with the fact that 4 people and 1 dog lost their lives in the most horrible of ways. But this was the sheriff, I think this was the 15th of January, because that was the date when Tony came out of hospital and he was interviewed by the police. Now, he'd made statements while he was in hospital, but he hadn't been read his rights at that time. So they brought him in, read him his rights, and they interviewed him, and he made a full confession. So this was released as part of the trial. Now, I'd not seen this. This was one of the new things that came out in the trial. Now, it may have already been out and I missed it, but this came out in the trial footage. So this is from day 2, I think, of the links that I've put in the description box if you want to watch it all. I'm just going to play you. I'm going to play you about 13 minutes, and it talks about the deaths. But I've left most of that out. I'm more interested in what his state of mind was. So that's what I've included here.
How we led up to where we're at right now. Okay. For a while, my wife decided, she began watching these videos talking about the afterlife, talking about affiliations, talking about how families slow down a little bit right now. I'm just having a hard time keeping up with these. That's okay. Let's keep up. And in watching these videos and watching everything going on, she presented them to me, and I started watching them with kind of a uneasy, whatever. And the more and more we watched, the more and more I gained to understand that there is more than this life here, a higher level of consciousness. And then we started researching, and then we started finding more about the world just coming to the end, the apocalyptic end, and that our families will be separated and enslaved, and to avoid this, to all go together. Okay. You mean die together? Die together. That's correct. Okay.
So it is a little bit difficult to hear, so I'll just kind of summarize that bit. So he's saying that it was Megan that brought up the idea of the afterlife. She had her own religious beliefs, but even though he's confessed to these murders here, he's introduced this idea that it was Megan that started it all. So Megan was watching videos about the afterlife and that the apocalypse was coming, the end of the world was coming, and when the end of the world came, they'd all be separated. Why would they all be separated? Now, this is just my opinion, but what do you think to this? The fact that he said they'd all be separated, well, they were going to be separated, weren't they? Because he was going to go to prison for fraud, and he knew damn well he was going to go to prison for fraud. So they were all going to be separated. So I think he's leaked some truth there of what he was scared of, that his family weren't going to be separated in the afterlife. They were going to be separated in this life. And then if you do believe that, I think Tony was brought up Catholic. If you believe that if you sin, you don't go to heaven, well, he's sinned. He's committed a crime. Therefore, in the next life, in the afterlife, they're going to be separated because they'll go to heaven and he won't. He'll go to hell. So both in terms of what's going to happen in Tony's immediate future, and then what might happen when they pass away, they're going to be separated. So, but he's placed the blame on Megan. Now, we don't know whether Megan was interested in videos to do with the afterlife and to do with the apocalypse. I mean, a lot of people are, right? And the family had some concerns about what they've been talking about. So possibly Megan had been watching videos as well. But this next bit is strange, to say the least.
Because my wife's been chronically ill for a while, this really appealed to her. And because it appealed to me also, because she wouldn't be in any pain, family wouldn't be separated. There would be no more sorrow, no more heartbreaking, no more anything. It would be a salvation and everlasting life. Okay? So we kept doing our research, reading up things, meditating, and decided that, yeah, this should be a thing. This should be what we should do. Okay? We had sat down and talked with the boys and Zoe just on different things about, death and the way what would happen if mommy died, how would you feel, what happened when daddy died, what do you feel? And because this response was that we don't want you to die, we want to die with you. Okay?
So when did you guys start talking to the children about this? Or January now?
No, it was before Thanksgiving.
Okay. And your wife first showed you these videos when?
When she started watching them, or she first started showing them to me in April.
April. Okay.
So she'd started watching the videos in April. Well, that was around the time when Tony's business started to struggle. That was around the time that the patients and the staff at the physical therapy business started to notice a change in Tony. So again, is this all Tony's fabrication? That Tony had started to think about, he was undertaking fraud. He was starting to get in over his head. He knew that eventually he was going to get caught. So was this around the time when he was starting to think that the only solution was going to be family annihilation, including perhaps himself, right? And they, according to this, they sat the children down and talked to them about death. And the children said that they'd prefer to die with the parents. So it's like they'd agreed to it. How can a 13 and an 11-year-old might be able to get their head around death? Of course they will, right? They know what death is. But a 4-year-old? How would a 4-year-old know what she was agreeing to? If this even happened. Right? It's like he's trying to say here that they were consenting, that this is what they all wanted.
What was she using to watch these?
Her Microsoft Surface laptop.
And that's the one in the blue case?
Yes, it's a flip, yes.
All right. Okay, go on. So you talked to the children.
Just get a general understanding what they want to do one time. And they didn't want to live without us. Okay? We didn't put back and say we're going to die and, leave you behind. But what would you do if mommy and daddy died? And we don't want to live without you. We don't want to live without you. In conversation with my wife, we didn't want to live without them either. We wanted to bring the whole family together and we could transverse together. So we were coming up with different things of how we could do this. We didn't know how we could do this because we're not violent people. Okay, not violent people at all. First,
we're not violent people. Well, what the scene turned into would say otherwise. Absolutely. Of course he is. He's removing his responsibility, that it wasn't his idea. He just went along with it. Yeah, and of course, Breezy wasn't going to consent, was he? And I don't believe they did. I don't believe that happened. I don't believe it.
He said, what if we, started reading different things? There's something came on TV about cough medicine. Okay, so could they have some cough medicine that would put them to sleep, like overdose of cough medicine, just put them to sleep? Like a nice peaceful death. Okay, so my wife made a pudding pie, jello pie, froze it. Nothing happened.
What was in the pie?
What was in the pie? Sleep, ease, different things with drama, this stuff to put you to sleep.
You said you have a medical background, is that correct?
I have a medical, but not a chemical background.
Not a chemical. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a physical therapist.
Okay. So you don't have like terminology and
No.
Is your wife?
She's a physical therapist. No.
Okay.
We looked it up and
Where did you guys look this? I was just fixing to ask. Where did you guys do the research at?
We went up and down there, honestly, up and down the aisles of the Publix, and asked the drug guy, pharmacist, thank you. What's something good that puts you to sleep? No trouble falling asleep.
When did you guys start doing this research?
That started research before Halloween. But I just intermittently trying to figure out what was going on.
Okay.
When we found out the best drug to use was a drama. It's the stuff in.
Oops.
That was before Thanksgiving. We started reading different things. There's something came on TV about cough medicine. Okay. I don't know how you do it. The stuff that puts you to sleep.
You said you have a medical background, is that correct?
I have a medical but not a chemical background.
Not a chemical.
Yeah. We went up and down there.
Sorry, I accidentally took it back to the beginning there. But basically, they were doing research. He was doing research just before Halloween about the best way to send you to sleep permanently. So he decided to use Benadryl. So yeah, there was Benadryl involved. Benadryl was found in their systems. So Benadryl is an antihistamine for allergies, but it makes you drowsy. So some people use it as a sleep aid. And the pie that he mentioned, apparently Megan made this pie and they put Benadryl in the pie and everybody was meant to eat the pie and go to sleep and not wake up. But it gets worse, given that they're not violent people, this absolutely gets worse.
I stayed up and down the aisles of the Publix and asked the drug guy, pharmacist, thank you. What's something good that puts you to sleep? No trouble falling asleep.
When did you guys start doing this research?
That started research before Halloween. But I just intermittently trying to figure out what was going on.
Okay.
When we found out the best drug to use was a drama. It's the stuff in Benadryl. It's the safest way to put away. The safest way to put it. So it didn't work. So we kept thinking, talking, and just researching different things. And finally, we started researching. We said, we're just going to have to do some sort of exsanguination. Okay? Bleed to death. Okay? That's how they used to do it way in the back, but they used to do sacrificial things.
You take a bleed to death?
Bleed to death.
Oh, bleed to death, sorry.
Okay. And so we started researching where would be the easiest to stab to do so the kids could bleed to death, maybe in combination with the sleep drug. Okay. And that's how everything led up to be.
So in collaboration with the sleep drug, Benadryl, they were going to bleed to death. So stab them in a place where they would bleed out. Now that to me sounds painful and long. And I have included, trigger warning, I have included some of the description that he's given about how he killed Zoe, the little girl. So you might want to skip the next 10 minutes or 5, what is it? About, I don't know, about 6 minutes, because he starts going on about how he killed Zoe to show you how long this process was. This was horrific. For somebody who he says is non-violent, it would have been kinder if he wanted to off them all and himself to buy a gun and just shoot them all in the head, quite frankly. But this is just horrific. Listen.
So that's through research. You guys have found Now you're saying you and your wife did this together?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in doing all the research and everything, how did we get to Monday morning? What take me back to the holidays? When do you think the children died? That type of stuff.
I'm still trying to remember when the children died. I can't put those pieces together.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
We wanted the kids to stick around for the Christmas holiday concert because we didn't want to disappoint that.
Did you guys celebrate Christmas Day?
No, the kids were there before Christmas.
Because family is saying that they spoke with Megan the day after Christmas. Was Megan alive the day after Christmas?
No, she died right the day after the boys did.
Right. I remember you saying that the other day. That's why I've made contact now with your family and with Megan's family. And so Megan's family is 99% sure that looking back through cell phone records and stuff that they spoke with her, not text message. They spoke with her the day after Christmas. And she said the children were sick. Okay, so you're adamant that they died before Christmas?
Yes.
Okay. The children, you said, died 24 hours or so a day prior to Megan?
Correct.
Okay, so let's go to the day of their death. How did this go down?
Woke up at 11:30 at night. We set the alarm for 11:30 at night. And got up out of bed. And it was Zoe first.
Okay.
Meg walked into the room and she walked back into her room.
Step by step. So you guys are sleeping in the master room, I'm assuming.
Yes, one of the things. And the dog.
And the puppy. Okay. Which boy was upstairs?
Zoe was upstairs in her room.
Okay.
Tyler was upstairs in his room. Tyler was asleep downstairs in the library room.
And why again was he down there?
The two of them were sick, so we kept them apart.
Okay. All right. So, okay, go ahead, sir.
So we walked to the door, Zoe's door. Meg and I hugged and kissed, and pretty much, you know what you need to do. Come back at me when we're done. So I went into Zoe's room. And it took me 2 or 3 hours sitting there because it's a tough, but the everlasting salvation and the thought of that everlasting salvation was there, and I needed to save her soul. We wanted her to be with us. Megan kept coming in. What's going on? I'm like, it'll be done in a little bit. It'll be done in a little bit. It's getting past that time now. You know? The initial thought was to strap it into the umbilicus above the navel, so I could get the inferior vena cava or the abdominal aorta and be bleed out with no time whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
I know I tried. I don't know if I ever punctured it. I don't know if I did or not. I saw a little mark on her, but I don't know if I saw anything. But then she rolled and started swiveling, and I put my hand over her mouth and I put a pillow over top of her. So she went and she started to fade away. And I just held that until there was no motion left.
So you didn't lay on her?
I did lay on her when she lay on her belly. I'm sorry. I laid on her to keep her down, and I put the pillow on top.
Okay. Do you think you stabbed her or no?
I don't know. I didn't see anything.
Okay. So how long would you say it took you to take her life?
The whole motion?
Yeah.
Like from the minute I was sitting in there, or from?
Okay, once you initially take action, okay, did you have a knife with you?
Yes.
Which knife did you have with you?
The small knife.
Which is what color?
Green.
Okay, that's the green buck knife that you talked
Green
about?
buck knife, yes.
Okay, all right. So you had that in her bed.
Mhm.
So how long from the time that you had the knife out to the suffocation until you think that she was deceased?
I want to say 10 minutes, 15 minutes, around there. It seemed like that light night took forever, so it's hard to really gauge on the time.
Okay, and you said you used a pillow over her head?
Yes.
Was she face up or face down?
She kept moving. I think she was on her back with her head towards the wall, so in that way.
So for 10 minutes to 15 minutes, you held a pillow over your daughter's head?
Mm-hmm.
How long did she kick and scream?
Only for a couple of minutes.
A couple minutes?
Mm-hmm.
So like 2 minutes?
I had no timer, but yes.
I'm just saying, guys, let's look at that.
And I just held it there.
That's a long time.
Since?
Did the other children hear her?
No.
Did your wife hear her?
Well, I kept going up. I felt her in the opening the door to see what was going on, and shutting the door and walking back.
Okay.
Because you just see the light coming in.
Okay. So you think the sun was coming up, or was it just the light from
It was light from the hallway.
a light bulb? Okay. So now Zoe is deceased. And what happens next?
Walk out. Stood with Megan in the room for a little while.
How was the body?
How do you mean?
How was the positioning? Where was the pillow?
There was a pillow behind her head, and her hands were out to the side, and I made sure the covers were on top of her, just in essence to keep her warm.
Did she have anything in her hands?
No, I had put a rosary in her hands later on when I moved.
When you moved the bodies?
I moved the bodies, yes.
Okay, we'll get to that. And that was post-rigor?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, we're getting a little bit ahead.
No, that's okay.
I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry. Okay. So Zoe's gone. You and Megan console each other, whatever you guys have to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens?
We go into Alex's room.
Alex room?
Yes. The one next to the bathroom, the one upstairs.
One upstairs. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's horrible. It's gruesome to listen to, but it's just as graphic when it goes through the other children and Megan. I included that just to show several things, to be honest, just how calm he was, how emotionless he was. Bear in mind, this is 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks later. So this is not shock, right? Because he's been living with those dead bodies for 2 to 3 weeks. So he's not in shock. He might be in shock that he's been caught, but surely he realized he was going to be caught. He claimed that he doesn't remember any of this. This is what he claims. He's in some sort of dissociative state, which I guess could be possible. We can't prove that it isn't, that it isn't, but I don't believe. I think he was genuinely confessing. I think this is the most honest that he was. And to calmly talk about killing his 4-year-old daughter as if he's reading a shopping list. I did this, I did this, I did this. I put a pillow over her head. Doesn't know whether he stabbed her or not. He was trying to find some artery so she'd bleed out quickly, but he doesn't know. If you'd found an artery and you were bleeding out, you would know. But no, she was wriggling, right? He had a pillow over her head and he was lead on her, like squashing the life out of her. So she couldn't take it. She couldn't. I mean, just absolutely horrific. Look how big he is compared to a 4-year-old girl. And the other kids fought as well. When he gets to Tyler, he talks about Tyler was the quickest, and, you know, he had to make sure Tyler didn't escape. I mean, it's just horrendous. I mean, there's no words to, you know, to describe, really. It is absolutely terrifying. The calmness is terrifying. It is. It is. Well, he was judged competent. He was judged competent to stand trial. And he was judged, this confession was judged competent. That's why it was played at the trial. So clearly there's insanity, but then there's competence. So then we get to June. June 2020. And this is where he introduces, he's in jail, right, awaiting trial. And he waited a long time for his trial. But he wrote a long letter to his dad. And this is the letter. And it's interesting because he was estranged from his dad for a long time. But he decided to write to him. Maybe he thought he had something in common with his dad. You know, like they both wanted to like off their wife. Interesting, he calls him Robert rather than Dad. And the letter goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. I mean, literally. You know, I suppose he got nothing better to do than write this huge letter. I mean, just ridiculously long. But the upshot is, this is where he introduces the narrative that it was all Meghan's fault. Meghan did it. Meghan did it. He just took the blame for it. And this is what he came up with at his trial. You know, he said back in June 2020 that he's 10,000% innocent. And this is what he tried to convince the jury of just 3 weeks ago. So I'm going to play you just a little bit of what Tony Todt said. I want you to watch his demeanor. I want you to look how confident he is and how he addresses the jury. Thank you. Thank you, Mountain Girl, for the $5. You're very welcome. I will keep up the good work. So he keeps moving. He keeps like swiveling his chair and he talks to the jury. So when he's looking, it's left of our screen. So to his right, he's talking to the jury. And then when he turns back the other way, he's talking to his barrister and he's confidently swiveling around, you know, like he's having some kind of, you know, he's holding court. He's literally holding court here. Right? Exactly. Exactly. It was. Yeah, it was. So this is him talking to his own barrister, to his own attorney. But if you've not seen it, if you've not watched any of the trial and you don't intend to watch any of the trial, I definitely recommend you watch this. Now, I've just put the day 1, day 2, day 3, and day 4, but the Law and Crime Network have split them up as well. Like there's, you know, all the different interviews and things are all split up into different videos. So if you just type in to YouTube, Anthony Todt, I keep saying Todt, Anthony Todt testimony, then just that will come up. And she, the prosecutor, absolutely ties him in knots, and he gets really frustrated, and it's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. But this is him trying to convince the jury very confidently that it was all Meghan.
There was some discussion about a suicide note, and that was apparently directed from Detective Cole Miller to Dr. Nara. Were you aware of any suicide note?
When I came back to the house that day, she showed it to me. Yes.
Now, that is fake. Now, please tell me that, you know, if I'm wrong, but that is fake. That is just so fake. Oh, dear.
But I had no knowledge of it before I came home that day.
And what was her demeanor or attitude at that time?
She was trying to explain to me what she did. Was trying to make me understand. It was the whole aspect of it was she was trying to present this as fact. And I was telling her, I don't believe that, I can't believe I called her some names, which I never called her before in my life.
Is that another slip? Like when he was killing them all, was she fighting and he was calling her names? I think so. But when he said when he came back that day, what he means is just the backstory, just in case you don't know where, because I've kind of come in part way through. He said that he'd not spent the night. He does. Yeah, he does. He's his blankie. Yeah. He'd spent the night at the condo because he was going to put a bike together. Zoe was getting a bike for Christmas and he was going to put it together for her. And, you know, he was doing this for the good of the family. He was spending the night at the condo to do this. And however, he ended up getting to the condo, falling asleep and not even going into the condo, but then coming home in the morning to this suicide note and Meghan having killed all the kids. So that's what he's talking about. I mean, it's just so, and look at his face. I mean, he's fake. He's fake as anything. I honestly, I despise this man. I despise him. And I can normally find some kind of something to say, all right, this is they had a huge amount of problems, and although it's deplorable and inexcusable, this is why. But this man, I cannot muster. I despise this man. If he was in front of me, I'd just want to slap him. He's got that kind of face that you just want to slap, to be quite frank. I despise this man.
But the whole demeanor of it was, this is what I've been told through my meditations. This is what I believe. This is what, as she referred to as, the light has provided for her, and the light.
Talking about your own demeanor.
Did you see what he did there? The prosecutor, you know, he just went, oh, and just turned away from her, as if like she'd said something that, you know, it was like, her when she cross-examined, she was so good. She had him tied up in knots, but he's so cocky and confident.
And how your countenance
My own demeanor, when I found out what happened, I puked. I cried. I was in total denial of what happened. I couldn't understand. And then after that, I was like, I want to get you help. I'll take responsibility for this. Just get help. That's all I wanted. I would do anything in my life to do what she needed, provide for what she needed, provide her a happy life. I held my wife on a pedestal. I didn't care anything to myself. I wanted her to have a good life, period. And I wanted her to get help.
So he wanted her to get help after she'd killed his entire family. So if you'd gone home and your wife had killed, or your spouse had killed every single last one of your children, yes, you'd cry, but wouldn't you want them to face justice? Wouldn't you call the cops? You might say you need help whilst you're calling the cops. Ha. I don't believe Megan killed those kids.
I don't care.
Try and work on shorter sentences so that everyone can keep up, and I'll be.
My apologies, sir.
We're fine. Have you progressed from talking about the afterlife to talking about what happened to your children and your wife?
I don't understand what you mean, sir.
When you said what had happened with Megan, what were you talking about?
What had happened that day when I came home?
Which day?
I don't know.
You don't have to talk about calendar date. What was the occurrence that made that day memorable?
I came home and my kids were dead.
Oh, that is fake. I'm sorry. That is so fake.
It was the most horrible day of my life. And what made me more horrible is my wife died in front of me.
Have there been a blueberry pie that was cooked in the house?
According to what she told me.
Objection hearsay.
And
Hold on just a sec, Mr. Todt. Response.
Describe what you know or saw and not what you heard from another person, if you can.
thank you, sir. When I came home that morning, I knew my family the night before was having dessert, and I declined it because you saw my health. I was jogging and losing weight. I came home that morning, and there was a melted.
So this is the pie that he talked about in his confession on January 15th, 2020. This is the pie that he and Megan had put Benadryl in to give to the kids to send them to sleep forever, but it didn't work. So now he's struggling to remember this pie, but the attorney brings it up. And yeah, that's where we are. Kate, it's happened on, the trial started on April the 11th, and he was sentenced on April the 14th, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, April the 14th. So it ran only for 4 days, 4-day trial, April the 11th to April the 14th. And so yeah, it's very recent. So the murders occurred in December 2019, but it's took it this long to get to trial due to various delays and things.
Purple, looked like a pudding pie. I can't really tell you exactly what it was. She told me what it was later, but it was in a graham cracker crust. And the kitchen, it was my job to clean the kitchen. But when I came home, that purple, bluish, grapish, melted pie, I guess you want to say, the pie dish was sitting there on the counter with some residue on the kids, at the kids' places on their plates.
I hope one of the channels that do, you know, like facial analysis, body language analysis, I hope one of the channels that does that picks up this and analyzes this testimony, because I'm not an expert in that kind of thing, but it's just, it's laughable in how fake it is, in my opinion.
At that time you came in, you saw that there were desserts that had been served up on the table?
I saw the remnants of it, yes.
And then did you then discover that your children were dead?
Not initially, no. I had gone upstairs. Well, I had too much information, but I had to pee. So I went to the bathroom and came out, and my wife was at the top of the stairs. My house was very quiet. Very unnormal having 3 kids. 1 13, 1 10 at the time, the other one 4 years old. She brought me in the room. I had been feeling nauseous that morning anyways, because I had these shakes I was taking for weight loss, all that. And around the same time that she was telling me I was puking, it was then that I understood what had transpired. She had blood on her shirt. And after that, after I said a few uncolored words to her, I then discovered the kids. I went into the rooms and found them dead.
You saw the video yesterday where on the 15th, Cole Miller and another investigator in a tiny room talked to you at length. Did you have an...
I don't know, Jen. He was trying to lose weight, so he was jogging and he was having shakes, milkshakes. I don't know what the shakes were. It'd be interesting to find out whether he was taking Thrive or not. That would be really interesting to know.
Agenda for that discussion?
I don't even remember that day. Last thing I remember was falling down the stairs and smacking my head on the stairs, which resulted in a fracture of my neck. Next thing I knew, I woke up here. And seeing that video yesterday, that was the first time I saw that video.
So he doesn't remember. So that he's talking about the video of his confession. So that was played at the end of day 2. And then this testimony is day 3, if I remember rightly. So he claims he doesn't remember anything to do with him talking to the police, confessing, and that's the first time he's ever seen that video, and he's denying all responsibility. Yeah, because he's had over 2 years to sit in jail to develop a story, in my opinion, which he'd started to develop when he wrote to his dad in June 2020.
I had no agenda consciously, but I can tell you throughout my relationship with my wife, especially after she got sick, I would put myself as a forefront and take responsibility and protect my wife.
You said in the statement that you stabbed the children and there was blood everywhere. Do you remember that from yesterday's video?
I I remember just seeing on yesterday's video. I wasn't aware of anything I said until about June. So maybe June or July, 6 months after I got here, when I got the transcript of what I said that day.
Okay, so he doesn't remember anything, but he's had the opportunity to look at the transcript. So he would have known what he said. He's just a big liar, pants on fire, in my opinion. Yeah, there was no mention of him having a fracture other than what he said. And we saw the police body cam of him coming down the stairs, and it doesn't look like he fractured anything. The cops were very kind to him and told him to sit down. So I think that's, in my opinion, that's a lie. Exactly. There's so many parallels between him and Chris Watts. Like I said at the beginning of this stream, that this, in my opinion, this is more horrific. I mean, it's probably wrong to compare one family annihilation with another, but, you know, in terms of the actual details, this is horrific. This is truly horrific. Not that what Chris Watts did wasn't horrific, it was. But it's interesting that everybody talks about Watts. Everybody wants to know about Watts. People still talk about Watts. Watts still comes up in the paper. There's been an article this week about Watts in the press. But yet, Tony Todt, nobody knows about him. You know, only, you know, true crime aficionados really know about Tony Todt. And I wish everybody knew, because this has got so many alarm bells for, you know, like the sheriff of Osceola County said, that there's so many people out there to help in the community, professionals. And he was absolutely right in flagging up that this is a mental health problem. And underlying all family annihilation is mental ill health of the most serious kind. You know, you can say, yeah, the trigger's financial or the trigger's an affair, but it runs much deeper than that. It did with Watts. It does with them all. You just have to scratch the surface a little bit. And I wish more people in the true crime community would talk about cases like this, honestly.
Why did you say that you performed the incisions on the bellies of the children?
It goes back to the aspect is I was covering for my wife. Obviously, unsuccessfully, because as you saw by the video, compared to what they said, I had no clue had my kids died.
Did you have ideas of joining your family in the afterlife?
After I saw everybody die, after I saw my wife die and saw my kids, most definitely. I wanted to be with them. That's the only thing I wanted to be. I didn't care by what means. I didn't care by what anything. I sliced my wrist. I took multiple doses of Benadryl. I tried to hang myself several times. I bought a pellet gun to shoot myself because I couldn't get a gun to, as you call it, eat a gun.
The prosecutor here, she says, why couldn't you get a gun? And he said something about in Florida, you have to wait 3 days to buy a gun. And she said, well, you could buy a shotgun. Apparently you can get a shotgun straight away. And he had no answer. You know, why buy a pellet gun, which you know isn't going to kill you? Why not buy a real gun? And you had plenty of time, you know, even if there's a waiting period to buy a gun. I mean, I don't know. I'm in the UK. I have no idea what the firearms laws are in Florida. But yeah, he had no answer. You know, and if he was planning this, you know, taking the whole family to the afterlife for several months, he had several months to buy a gun. So, yeah. But no, he chose Benadryl and a pellet gun. Oh, it's so sick. It's, oh.
Did you ever try to poison yourself?
With Benadryl, yes. And also, I was just under recently of medical care, and I was given metformin for diabetes. And at one point, I swallowed the whole bottle of metformin.
Now, I think there was evidence that you remained in the house for up to 3 weeks after the day that changed your family's entire future. During that time, how many attempts did you make to take your own life?
I would have to go through them to count, because in my head I can't count them. Do you mind if I tell you?
Can we close your eyes for about 15 minutes about 15 seconds and try and formulate the answer?
On conscious recollection, I can tell you I remember at least 8 times. However, since being here and through other diagnostic testing, I found out there were additional times. So 10 times, at least.
Liar, liar, pants on fire. Yes, Helen, I caught it as well. He just said he saw everybody die. After I saw everybody die, not everybody dead. Yeah, he did. He did. He very quickly corrected it, but he did. He's just a liar. He's immortal. Well, he's going to spend eternity rotting in prison. So, the jury, after hearing, honestly, I was a bit underwhelmed by the trial. I thought there was going to be a lot more evidence presented. I think the prosecution, thought it was an open and shut case, to be honest. But the jury didn't think so. And I don't think this was reported very widely in the media. But after about 6 hours of deliberation, the jury sent a message to the judge saying that they were in deadlock. So there was a chance, actually, he could have got away with it. So we'll listen to a couple of minutes of what happened when the judge got the note that the jury were in deadlock. The prosecution must have been having kittens at this point.
Right, thank you. The court has received correspondence. It is signed by the foreperson. The document indicates we are deadlocked at this point. Does either side wish to take a look at the note from the jury? I apologize, Mr. Wesley. I see the attorneys up at the bench.
All rise, the jury, please.
Thank you for the 10 Australian dollars, Lee. Thank you so much. He made it worse for himself by testifying. He did, you know. He did. But I think probably because the prosecution played the confession, he kind of had to be fair. Yeah, they were deadlocked. We don't find out what they were deadlocked on. We don't find out. So what the judge did was spoke to the attorneys, then brought the jury back. So the jury 4-person sent a note to say they were deadlocked after about 6 hours. So there'd obviously been, I don't know, we'll never probably know unless one or more of the jury decides to speak out on this. But there was obviously disagreements, and they needed to tell the judge that there was disagreements. So he called the jury back and had a word with them. And this is what we're going to hear next.
May be seated. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I have received the following correspondence. The correspondence indicates we are deadlocked at this point. If I have read that correspondence incorrectly, if you will please raise your hand. Seeing no hands raised, I'm going to inquire who is our 4-person. Madam 4-person, has the jury reached a unanimous verdict on any of the counts? And I'm not asking what the decision would be. Has the jury reached a unanimous verdict on any of the counts presented to the jury?
I believe so.
All right. I'm going to ask that the jury return to the jury deliberation room and they complete the jury form for any particular count in which the jury has reached a unanimous verdict. I'm going to then bring you back into court. I'll present you, Madam 4-person, with a manila envelope. I'm going to ask that the completed verdict forms, whatever they may be placed in that manila envelope. You will place your name on the back of that manila envelope. That manila envelope will remain with the court. And then I'm going to have some additional instructions for you. Thank you.
Okay, so the jury go out, and then they then have a chat. So I just looked. The jury disagreed on some counts. Sounds like they agreed on. Sounds like some they agreed on. Yeah, the jury 4-person. You just about heard her say, "I think so." I think she said. I think they were deadlocked on the children and possibly the animal cruelty charge. So basically 4 counts where it could have been that they were doubtful, you know, because remember, all the defense has to prove is reasonable doubt. They're not proving innocence. They're just proving some form of reasonable doubt. So if there was enough reasonable doubt that Megan might have killed the kids and Breezy the dog, and then he was so horrified that he killed her, then I think that's possibly it, reading between the lines. Thank you so much, Hallie, for the $9.99. Thank you. You are very, very kind indeed. So the jury are going back out.
You may retire to continue with your deliberations. Parties, they have expressed some concerns about the procedure that was contemplated by the court. Court is going to bring the jury back in when they have completed the forms. I will allow them to return with the forms, even if it is memorialized in writing. Instruct them that any verdict that they reach must be unanimous and will not be final until published and accepted by the jury. I'll read the Allen charge and send it back for continued deliberations. Any objections, state? Defense?
No, Judge.
Thanks.
Okay, but after about another hour or so, it's on day 4. Day 4 looks like it's a very, very long day because it's like a 10-hour live stream. But what the Law and Crime Network did was they just kept the stream going. So there's like a 6-hour block where there's absolutely nothing. And then there's another hour or so where after this, so he sent them back to further deliberate. Thank you so much, Donna, for the $9.99. You are very welcome. Very welcome indeed. Thank you for being so generous. How could anyone believe that performance? It's just about providing enough reasonable doubt. That's all. And if there's any doubt whatsoever in the jury's mind that maybe Megan did kill the kids. You know, she was depressed. She believed in the afterlife and that there was an apocalypse coming and that they'd all be separated. You know, and it only takes one juror to think like that, and the whole room is in disarray. One day I'll tell you the story of what it's like in the jury deliberation room, because I've been there. On a murder trial. I'll tell you, not today, because we're already going to have gone nearly 3 hours by the time I finish this. We're nearly at the end now. So not today, but I'll tell you another day.
Right,
anyway, then the verdict. So I told you up front, in a big spoiler alert, that he did get convicted. So let's listen to that verdict.
The defendant will please rise. Madam Clerk, if you would please publish the verdict.
In the Circuit Court of the 9th Judicial Circuit in and for Osceola County, Florida, case number 2020 CF 149, State of Florida versus Anthony John Todt. Verdict as to count 1. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. Verdict as to count 2. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. Verdict as to count 3. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. Verdict as to count 4. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. Verdict as to count 5. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of cruelty to animals. So say we all, dated at Kissimmee, Osceola, Florida, Osceola County, Florida, on the 14th of April, 2020.
You may be seated. Does either side wish for the jury to be polled?
Yes, Your Honor.
Madam Clerk, if you would please poll the jury by juror number.
Juror number 78, are these your verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 75, are these your verdict?
Yes, ma'am.
Juror number 74, are these your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 73, are these your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 71, are these your verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 66, are these your verdicts? Juror number 53, are these your verdicts? Juror number 42, are these your verdicts?
Yes, ma'am.
Juror number 29, are these your verdicts? Juror number 8, are these your verdicts?
Yes.
Juror number 5, are these your verdicts?
Yes, ma'am.
Juror number 4, are these your verdicts? The jury is unanimous.
Poor Tony. Thank you, Suzette, for the 16999 ZAR. I don't know what currency that is. I'm sorry. But thank you so much anyway. I want to cheer. I know. He can't believe it, can he? Cannot believe it. Cannot believe it. He thought his acting performance would steal the day, but no. But he is appealing, according to the press anyway. So according to court filings, Anthony Todt, the man convicted of murdering his family inside their Florida home, has appealed his conviction. Convicted on April 14th on 4 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count each for the death of his wife and 3 kids, and 1 count of animal abuse of the family's dog's death. He was sentenced to 4 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. His sentencing, the judge told Todt he was the destroyer of worlds. Thank you, John, for the 1999. It is horrific. Yeah, double slap him with an axe. Yeah, arrogant, just cocky, just everything. Slimy. He's a slime ball, in my opinion, allegedly. Okay, so he was the destroyer of worlds. Todt pled not guilty to the charges, maintained his innocence before sentencing, except that he confessed, but there you go. Juries deliberated for about 7 hours before ultimately returning a guilty verdict on all counts. What the media didn't talk about was the deadlock. That's one of the most interesting parts for me, that they did about 6 hours, got deadlocked, came back in, judge told them to go away and do it again. And then after about an hour later, they came back with a unanimous verdict. But there was that hint. There was that hint, and that could be, a real, it gives him hope, doesn't it? It gives him hope that if he can appeal and, he'll try to say that them including the confession that he didn't remember, that's wrong. South African rand. Oh, cool. I'll know that in future. I'll know that in future. So the Osceola County Sheriff's Office found Todt's family dead inside their home in celebration. Authorities said it appeared Todt had been living in the house for weeks after the killings. Oh dear. And there you go. That's where we're up to in this horrific case. That's where we're up to. Just a sweet, sweet family. Even if Megan had got a mental illness and she was thinking that the world was going to end, and there's some truth in that, even if there is, I do not believe she killed her children. I do not believe it. I think it was all him. And I don't know whether to believe this apocalypse story at all. I think it's equally possible that when he was talking about the world ending, it's because he knew he was going to be arrested and the family were going to be separated. He was going to go to prison and there was going to be a massive amount of shame, the very shame that he experienced as a child. So I think his mental illness stems from that. So yeah, such a beautiful family. They really are. And just a loss of life that are just senseless, needless. But I really do think that more true crime channels should cover cases like this. I know Watts was covered extensively, but in my opinion, the psychology side of it, the real reasons, the under the surface reasons for why these things occur, I think more of us need to talk about them. So there you go. That's all I've got for you. And this is a much longer live than I intended, to be honest. And I'm going to call it a day here because I'm tired now. I can't go on for 4, 5, 6, 7 hours. I can't do it. I just can't do it. But I will continue to cover. Like I say, I cover a range of cases on Michelle Walks. Usually brief videos, though, not usually deep dives. But I want to carry on just covering the really intense cases that yeah, they may have done. Look back on the YouTube history. They didn't talk about it in the trial, though. Yes, he did exactly that. There's so many parallels between him and Chris, between Tony and Chris. So arrest my case right now. Cassie and Tilly are fast asleep. It's past their bedtime. It's nearly 10 o'clock here. It's nearly 10 p.m. here. So I'm going to call it a day. Thank you so much for tuning in and sticking with this. Some of the details are just horrible on this one. Thank you so much for the super chats and the super stickers. All very welcome. You're very, very kind. And if you're just coming in and, you know, you're thinking, oh, she finishes just as I come in, then just rewind and watch from the beginning. All right, guys. I'll speak very soon. I will have a Summer Wells video tomorrow for you guys who have missed the Summer Wells content on this channel today. So bye for now, guys. Have a good day, or good night or whatever you're doing. See you later. Bye, guys.